All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome everyone to the Leadership Havens Understanding Behaviors for Effective Leadership. And this is my webinar series that I will do twice a month, a free webinar series to leaders, especially if you are a high potential, emerging, advancing leader. These workshops are designed specifically for you. And the reason being is that a lot of times we are so busy doing, and we rarely have time to grow. And one of my things that's critical is that we spend the necessary time that we need in order to grow. And so what I wanted to do was put together a webinar series that would reach the masses, as many as possible, to help you all grow and develop your leadership capacity, because one of the things we focus on is definitely releasing restraint releasing workshops. So there may be something that you may be dealing with, you may be going through, you might say, why, what am I missing here? Why am I not hitting the nail on the head? Why am I missing every opportunity here? And it could have something to do with your leadership. And if that is the case, that's what we're here to do, to help you in that process. And so today we're going to talk about the 5 core behavior patterns of leaders. Now, here's me. I just wanted to introduce myself, because some of you don't know me personally and some of you do. I just want to let you know that I am a leadership coach and a leadership strategist. And one of the things I do is coach and co-power leaders to, number one, unapologetically show up in their space of influence. I teach them to amplify their voices amid potential canceling noise. We know that there's a lot of noise out there, and it is out there to cancel your potential. So I am here to help cancel that noise and let your potential rise to the level it should be. I love when leaders wear their decisions like a crown, which means that you don't make any apologies for your decision and what you're doing. You don't have all these doubts and going back and forth. You wear your decisions like a crown. And a decisive leader is a thriving leader. That's one thing I can say. When we have leaders who cannot make those decisions or choose not to make decisions, they are not thriving. So a decisive leader is definitely one who will wear their decisions like a crown. And finally, I teach leaders how to communicate their stories from a place of power. A lot of times when we tell our stories about where we've been in life, things that have happened to us, we tend to tell these stories from a place of defeat, a place of loss. That's not the case. No, I need you to understand that those matters, those situations in your life did not come to kill you, but they came to grow you. And so what I do is help you to be able to tell your stories from a place of power and not a place of defeat. So that's what I do as a leadership coach. I'm also a leadership strategist, and I partner with companies and organizations where I speak, train, and consult on topics. And those topics can be leadership development, team building, executive alignment, business coaching, and more. I mean, I have an entire brochure. Actually, I met with like 10 people today going over this brochure I have here of all of the different workshops that I provide and I have actually facilitated over the years since I've been in business. So it has definitely been a journey, and I'm thankful for God giving me just this opportunity to do it. And so again, that's what I do as a leadership strategist. And I am not going to go through all of this. I'll send this out to you all, but this is something that when I hear, when I work with leaders, these are some of the things that people say about what I did for them or how I helped them to, branch out. And one of the things that I'll say is the one that a leader said to me. Our client, she was a client, and she said, I no longer accept overmanaged and underled cultures. Like that has been the norm, where we find ourselves where we're constantly being overmanaged, but yet we're being underled. And we're looking for cultures where leaders will stand up. We are debunking all of those old cultures that have not served us well. So these are some of the things that help us to know who our clients are when we are working with leaders throughout our community and abroad. So I want to start this presentation off with the statistics. I always like to bring numbers out. One is a Gallup poll of over 1 million employed US workers concluded that the number one reason people quit their jobs is a bad boss or an immediate supervisor. It says 75% of these workers who voluntarily left their job did so because of their bosses and not the position itself. And I'll tell you right now, I would find myself in this number right here because I have left some jobs, some careers because of the leadership, because of what was being lacked there. And they tell you jobs have never done anything to you. It's just a job. But the thing is, the people who are leading you while you're in these jobs, those are the ones who are missing the boat. And so when you look at 1 million people who said that, they were the ones, they walked away from their leadership, then that's something that we have to give some thought to. 75%. That is a huge number. We cannot ignore that people are leaving bad bosses and bad supervisors. So that was one statistic that I thought would be important to start this presentation out with. And one of the things that when I thought about the 5 core behavior patterns of leaders, I was like, well, why would this be important to leaders to understand their behaviors? Because each of you are leaders on here. So why is this so important? It's important because number one says at one time or another, leaders typically exhibit different kinds of behavior patterns to influence followers to achieve group goals. However, too much of one behavior may decrease the overall effectiveness of your leadership impact when it comes to leading followers. So what does this mean? A lot of us are showing up every single day with the same leadership type, the same behaviors, and we're wondering, why aren't our followers getting it? Why aren't people paying attention? Why aren't we hitting our numbers? We're saying this to ourselves and we're wondering like, oh my gosh, why am I missing it? And it could be because you are the first one to adjust. You may need to adjust. So what I'm going to do today is take you through those 5 patterns of behavior. And I want you to identify where you are because that's going to help you kind of focus in on where you should be putting your attention, because you're going to answer some questions as we go through it. And that's going to tell you which one is more dominant, which behavior you put forward, most of the time when you're leading. And you want to make sure that that behavior aligns with the followers or aligns with the situation, because we cannot ignore that not just our behavior drives what happens, not just the situation, and it's not just the followers, it's all of that. All of that together makes up how we should lead, how we should serve our teams. So here are the 5 core behaviors. Now, there are a lot of behaviors that leaders that leaders display, but we're going to talk about these 5 core behavior patterns. One is the directive, the other is supportive, participative, reward and punishment, and charismatic. These are the 5 leadership patterns of behavior that we're going to focus on today. Again, directive, supportive, participative, reward and punishment, and charismatic. Okay. And I guarantee you're going to fall under one of these. You're going to fall in this area somewhere. So one of the things that the reason that I wanted to really focus on those 5 is because when you think about what we do as leaders, one thing is that we're constantly complimenting our followers or our teams. We're constantly showing up. We're taking advantage of opportunities. We're providing input. We're explaining policies. We're communicating what's going on with the company. We're making things happen. We're coordinating. We're asking. We're insisting. We're doing all of this. All of this stuff is important. When you think about in a run of a day, if you think about your day to day, Did you do any of these things? I guarantee you, you either had to communicate with someone on your team, you had to provide some information to someone, you had to explain a policy or a change. Like, this is why it's important for us to understand our behaviors, because if we don't make that connection to how we're acting and how people are performing, then we're really missing the whole boat. It's not just us showing up every day saying, hey, look at me, I'm the leader. It's important for you to understand that your behavior is going to dictate the outcome. And that's why I thought this was a very important workshop to bring out. So it says here that effective leadership behavior depends on situational and follower characteristics. It's not just your behavior. You got to add in situational matters as well as follower characteristics. And this means that a leader's behavior pattern that is effective in one situation is not necessarily effective in another situation. And that's why I said to you earlier, if you're showing up every day with the same behavior, the same attitude, I guarantee you somewhere along the way, someone is not, it's not connecting to your leadership style. If you don't know how to make an adjustment, if you can't go from being a directive leader to a supportive leader, or a directive leader to a charismatic leader, if you can't make that adjustment as the situation requires it and as the follower is required, then you will definitely miss out. You would definitely miss out. And I'm telling you, they're not going to respond. And if you say, I don't, my team is not producing, they're not doing what they're supposed to, I guarantee you it's because they're not connecting to the leadership. And this could be you thinking about your leader. You could be thinking about your leader right now. You may not be in the leadership role. You're thinking about the ones who's leading you, and you're not connecting to them. It's probably because they're bringing that same behavior into place every single time and expecting for people to respond to it. And that's why 75% of people leave their bosses and not just the job. They could love the job, but they'll walk away from that leadership that cannot adjust, cannot make that change. So when it says situational and follower factors, there are three tasks that we have to pay attention to. We have to know how to diagnose the situation in the followers. That's very important as a leader. You're going to start out, you understand that your behavior is just one component, but you got to understand also that there's a situation here and there's a follower. And that's what I'm going to navigate you guys through. So it's going to become real clear as we move into the questions. Then we have to provide needed leadership behavior for situations and follower characteristics. And then we have to be able to modify the situation or the follower characteristics. So there's some work to be done. You cannot do this just one way. It is not a one size fit all as a leader. You have to put yourself in a position where you're diagnosing the situation, you're provided needed leadership behavior that couples and goes with that behavior and goes with those followers, and then you'll be able to modify as you see the need requires it. So this is very important. So here are the first set of questions, and it's very simple. So I want you all to take a look at these questions. And then we have about 15 questions because we have 5 behaviors that we're going to go through, but there are 3 questions at a time. So what I want you to do is that you're going to do this self-assessment on yourself, and I want you to rate the following questions 1 through 5, indicating 1 indicating almost never. And so you think about your leadership role, think about what it is that you do, or 5 indicating almost always. So question number 1. So I want you guys to do the work. So we're going to start here. The first question is, I assign specific tasks to others. If you find yourself assigning specific tasks, duties, responsibilities to people on a regular basis, then you know that that's almost always. So you'll rate that a 4 or 5, or it just depends on where you are. The second question is, I explain methods and set goals for the group. And then the third question, I explain what each group member needs to accomplish. If you spend most of your time explaining and assigning, then this is the area that you will look at where you'll put like almost always. But if you don't, it's like, no, that's really not me. I don't assign duties. I don't assign responsibilities. Then you would go with the one or the two, however you want to rank. Okay, so everyone done? All right. So if you answered 4 or 5 to any of these questions here, any of these 3 questions, you put forward more directive type behavior. Now, here's the thing. People will look at the term directive as if it's something that's negative. It is not, because there are times when you're assigning tasks, when you're assigning duties and responsibilities, like there are times that you have to just, you have to do that. It will require you to do that. But you don't, it doesn't always have to be in a negative manner. It's only negative when you use it to diminish someone else's powers or diminish someone else's abilities. But directive behavior is sometimes necessary depending on, remember we talked about it, the situation or the people who are following you. And it says here directive leadership is about specifically directing the activities of your team members. Instead of working together to make a decision, sometimes you make the decision yourself. You don't give them a lot of room to make decisions because remember the situation requires that you have to make the decisions. So you have to be directive. You can't give them leeway to decide how to do something. It's like if you worked at a call center, there is a script and they have to follow that script. Any deviation from that script may cause them to miss some critical information. So you may have to be pretty directive with them and say, hey, don't deviate from this script. You need to read this script in its entirety and record the answers as you receive them, which means they don't need to do a lot of processing. They don't need to do a lot of guessing. They don't need to have a lot of input. They just need to do the work as it's assigned. And then the other part is, instead of letting team members decide how they like to do the work, you tell them how to do things. And that's what I was just saying. You giving instructions. So again, you're giving directions. You are more of a directive leader. Now it says directive behavior tells the follower what to do, how to do it, where it needs to be done, and when it needs to be completed. That's kind of the gist of what a directive behavior, a directive leadership type will do. Now, what we're going to look at is when it's good to use this type and when it doesn't work. So that's the key here as we navigate through this, is that you all are going to see that there are just some things that are going on when you're looking at the situation of the follower. You just like to say, oh no, I shouldn't use this type of behavior because these people don't really need it, or it does work in this environment. So here are some of the ways. It says followers tend to need and respond favorably in the following situation. So in a directive situation, followers are a member of a large work group and must coordinate their activities with one another. And again, a large work group, they have to coordinate. A lot of times when you got a lot of people working together, they need direction. So you have to be more directive in your response to them. You can't just say 30 people work together and make it happen. No, they have to work together. So they need someone to stand over them and make sure that they're balancing out the responsibilities. They'll respond favorable if followers work on tasks that require them to follow specific procedures. I just said about a call center. So directive behavior may work in that manner. Or followers are new at their jobs and need effective work guidance on what the leader expectations are. If you have a new person in their position and you have not communicated to them what you want, you haven't communicated your expectations, then have more of a directive type behavior will work well in that situation, because again, they need to know what your expectations are in order to get their job done. But then here are situations where a directive directive behavior will not work. And one is followers view themselves as capable and experienced individuals who desire to work independently without supervision by their leader. If you have capable and experienced individuals working under you, you cannot constantly exemplify or display directive behavior. You have to let them choose. You have to let them flow. You cannot stand over them and say, go, do, do, do. You got to give them some free reign. And when you're a directive, if you're a directive type leader, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them. They're going to leave because they don't need that type of oversight. Or followers work in a cohesive group of which the members usually meet their leader performance goals. So I'll give you an example. I worked with a team of three. It was three of us, and we were awesome team. I'm telling you, 4.5 years. We had our little ups and downs with each other, but it was just us learning each other. Our personality types are totally different, but we worked so well together. We worked so well together. We were getting raises like every year. We were constantly being recognized when the whole organization came together. They were constantly recognizing our work. We came up with new systems, new ways of doing things, but our leadership, she was so directive in her style that she wanted to just stand over us and watch everything we did. We didn't know how to respond to that. Each of us were 50 plus years old. So we had so many years in this field. And she would stand over us and try to watch everything we did. But the thing that really got us was when we would do something well, her comment would be, oh, they don't need me. Oh, they don't want me. But we're meeting your goals. We're performing, and we're including you in everything we did. We learned how to boss the boss early. And I tell people all the time, how you boss the boss is you include them. So we knew we had to include her, that she knew everything we did every step of the way, but it wasn't enough for her. And so because of that, she was very directive and we did not respond. And we did not stay in that position long. So again, if you know that you're doing that, you don't trust, then I'm telling you, you're going to lose these type of workers. And you need some experienced and capable workers on your team. Okay? All right. So we're going to go on. This is our next set of questions. So again, almost never, you're going to rate it 1 or 2, almost always 4 or 5. So I show consideration and acceptance of others. So think about your leadership role. I show concern for the feelings of others. I help develop the abilities of others to contribute to the task. Okay. So if you found where you rated this 4 or 5, any of these questions on the level of 4 or 5, you're probably more of a supportive type leader. You have a supportive behavior. When you walk in the building, it's all about supporting your team. It's all about being there for them. And I think we all thrive or strive to do that all the time. But again, we have to look at the situation and we have to look at the followers. Now it says supportive leadership is a leadership style where a leader does not simply delegate tasks and receive results, but instead supports followers until the task completion. It says this behavior pattern involves showing concern for the status, well-being, and needs of followers. And a supportive leadership involves building trust, inspiration, and helping colleagues overcome the challenges they encounter. You're being supportive. Everybody knows what it's like to have a supportive team member. Somebody who's always looking out for you, always concerned about your well-being. But yet, they're not just concerned about you, they're also concerned about the project. And so they're going to help you and they're going to give you the tools to get the project done. And here are ways that a supportive leadership style is exercised. These are manners in which you can see that. You're constantly giving open dialogue or active listening. You're training. You believe wholeheartedly in training. So you try to bring in different training mechanisms and different ways of learning for the team to thrive. You encourage teamwork. You show commitment. I just said it, not just to the team, but also to the project. So you're not just committed to them. Oh, I'm so concerned for you, but yet you know that their workload is massive and you're not helping them to get that job done. You're not helping, and you know how to do it. You know exactly how to do it. So, and then your relationship focus, you're very relationship driven. I'm more of, I'm very task informational driven type person. So I have to work on being more relationship driven, relationship focused. And especially in my leadership roles, I saw that that was something that hindered when I was in a leadership role, it hindered the growth of my team because I was not that relationship type person. So it's something I have to truly work on. And for some of you, you may have to work on that too, but you can't negate the human aspect of leading, guys. It is so important. And we have to learn how to get our hands dirty. Now, I tell leaders all the time, don't get your hands too dirty. Don't get down. I ran a girls' prison, and I'm telling you, from taking girls down to, putting handcuffs on them, doing this, doing that. Police, dealing with police. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Then I had to realize, like, Tessa, you're not young enough for this stuff. This is not what you do. This is what the young people do. But then I had to come up with other ways to engage my girls so that we didn't have to put our hands on them and so forth. And guess what? My team saw that as being supportive. Wow, Ms. Tessie is coming up with new ways to do this. And guess what? Our takedowns went down. Our numbers diminished. We scored off the charts in quality assurance because we came up with new ways of doing things. So that's how you can be supportive. You're always engaging your team. Now, here are some situations and followers that are receptive to supportive type leading. Followers are under high stress. You remember I just talked about prison, working a girls' prison, which was really tough, are under high stress while trying to complete a dangerous or critical task. I had staff that were getting hurt every single day going to the hospital. And so I had to come up with ways, and I had to be supportive and understanding. I even went and picked up their kids from school, because I knew that they were under a lot of stress. Like, I went overboard to try to be as supportive as I could to them. So again, I had to make the adjustment. Followers are new on the job and unsure of their abilities and insecure about keeping their position. You have people who are wondering every day if they're going to have a job. You gotta shift. You can't be directive. You gotta be more supportive, and you gotta let them know that they matter. They have to be assured every day that they walk in that this is their job. So again, you want to have a supportive behavior. Followers work tasks require creativity and new learning with much competition and possible conflict with other groups. So again, they will respond favorably to a supportive type behavior. But here are a group that will not respond to a supportive leader. Followers are very opinionated and stubborn in their point of view. You're dealing with followers who are, like I say, they got their own opinion about everything. They're just here to collect the check. Don't try to teach me. Don't try to support me. I don't need you. And they're not going to respond to a supportive behavior. You're just wasting that energy. I say put it somewhere else. Or followers are a large group of people, more than 30, who work at widely varying tasks at different locations. If they're not in the same location and they're not connected, it's a large group, it's kind of hard to be supportive. You will wear yourself out in a situation. You just have to be more supportive individually with them. Okay? All right, so here's our next set of questions. So take a look at these. Okay. So here these questions say, I get others involved in making decisions. I consult others to get their ideas and suggestions. I encourage subgroups to handle certain aspects of the group's task. So you're going to rate whether you do that all the time or almost never. Okay. So if you rated a 4 or 5 to any of these questions, you are a participative leader. So I've said that a couple of times. I've been standing in the mirror trying to say participative, participative. So you all take it either way you want to take it, right? But it's all about participation. Okay. So you are a participative leader, behavior type leader. And what that means is this behavior pattern involves sharing decision making power with followers. Now, I tell people I am this type of leader. I love to participate. I love other to hear other people's input. I love them to have a decision, feeling like they made a decision and we're all in this together. That's how I lead. But it doesn't always come out like that because I don't consider the situation that I'm in. Think about it. When I was running a prison, how involved could they be in certain decision making? The policies were so strict about how we had to do things and how we had to record things. I wanted them to feel involved in some areas, but then always play out that way. So I had to pull back and become a little bit more directive, or I had to go in a little bit more and be a little bit more supportive. But my heart was always to include them in every single thing that I did. So they didn't find out at the last minute. They found out as I was making this, as I was in the process of trying to make a decision. So that's the worst thing I think you can do to people is to let them walk in one day and they know that you've been working on something for the last 6 months, and that involves them moving their office or changing their team or something. You want to get people involved. That is very important. It says the team's input is considered during the decision-making process, but the decision is ultimately made by the leader. So you want to involve them, but when it comes down to it, you may have to be the one who makes the decision. So, who are those individuals or situations that could benefit from this type of leadership? Followers are working on tasks that are very important for the organization's success. If we are doing a strategic plan and we're growing, you want their input. So, if they are engaged in the growth and the development of your leadership, then you want to have them to participate. You want them to have some say so in the everything we change up, everything we bring new, everything we do, you want them to have a part in that. Or followers' acceptance and commitment are needed to successfully implement a decision, and the leader and the follower work in an environment that is extremely uncertain and rapidly changing. And you know that we're dealing with uncertain, changing times like never before. So again, you want to make sure people are involved. You want to make sure you are including them every step of the way. Remember, just because they have an opinion doesn't mean that you have to deviate from it, from your belief or the direction you're going, but it is giving you a little bit more insight in how your followers are going to react to this change or this new process. So it's very important to understand that involvement is everything when you're talking about growing your team. I'm telling you, that gotcha mentality that went out the door in 19th century, whatever, like that is no longer the norm anymore. That gotcha mentality, people are not responding to that, and they're walking out the door on leaders who think that way. So it's good to have a participative mindset when you're working with individuals. Now, this is probably when this type of leading won't help. It won't work. Followers work tasks are highly predictable and repetitive with no variation in the methods for completion. And you remember I talked about the individuals working at the call center. There's no variation there. So you don't need to really get their involvement into making sure day-to-day operations go. They just got to follow the script. The work was done to make sure this is the perfect script to get the information we need. So they may have to continue that way. Or the leader must make several emergency decisions immediately with very little time to gather input and information. I'm telling you, I've been in situations where they were emergency, dire situations, and I had to make a decision quickly. And I would just sit there like, wow, like, whew, that was a good call, Tessie, on that one. But I didn't have time to consult with my whole team. Let's say, hey, everybody, let's get together and huddle and talk about this. And we got a girl over here about to, bang her head, against a wall or something. And like, what do we need to do? I have to make a decision. We got to put her in a restraint. We have to do this. We have to do that. So again, sometimes being a participative type leader will not work in a situation when you got to make emergency decisions. Okay. All right, we're getting there, guys. So here is our next set of questions. So we have another set of 3 questions. I hope you all can see those. And remember, almost never you'll rank it like 1 or 2, and almost always you'll rank it 4 or 5. So question 10 is, I provide others with benefits and rewards. I punish others for undesirable behavior. I compliment those who do a good job. Okay. So if you find yourself at a 4 or 5 doing this almost always, then you are reward and punishment type leader, reward and punishment type behavior. And this is a little shaky, but we're going to still flow through it. So leaders who leader reward and punishments may be tangible. So I think this is important. It may be tangible, which is a raise in pay or demotion, or intangible, a compliment or a sarcastic remark. Both types can have significant impacts on followers. Research has shown that leaders use more intangible rewards to influence follower behavior. And this is probably due to the ability of leaders to use intangible rewards such as praise, recognition, and appreciation on short notice. So you all think about it. You want a raise, right? You've done the work, you've worked hard. I want a raise. I want a raise. But your boss comes to you during your evaluation period and say, you're doing such a good job. And, I give you a pat on the back, great work. But there's no money in the budget for a raise. But to them, because I just gave you all of these intangible compliments and all of this, it should be good for you. And you was like, no, I need the money. And I just spoke to a guy today where a company had constant turnover with their job because people would leave and go to another company that was doing similar work. And all they had to do was give the workers a 50-cent increase. And 50 cents changed the whole trajectory of this company, where now the workers are hanging in there. Now, I don't know how that would have worked with me, 50 cents, but just listening to this guy talk about that, and they fought giving that reward or that increase to their staff. They didn't think that they deserved 50 cents more. And you know what happened? The people felt that. They felt that they didn't deserve 50 cents more. So they would walk out on the job, just leave the company. The company was about to fold. But the consultant talked them into doing it. And now they have consistently flowed with bringing in good quality workers. So again, we have to think about it when we're using reward and punishment, how we look at that. And this is areas where it's favorable, where people can respond to that. The leader controls rewards that are important to followers and has a reputation for administering those rewards in a fair and impartial manner. Do they know you to be fair when you give out a reward? Or when you tell them that there's no money for increase, there's no money for a raise, do they believe you? Like, you have to think about that. Or have you been the type of person that put out that lie all the time? Don't tell the truth. But next thing you know, you got a raise, but we don't get one. Like, you're not in good standing with us, when we look at you. So they have to believe that you are fair and that you will give tangible rewards when they're due. Also, they have to believe that you're going to give out punishments when it's time for punishment. You don't just reward bad behavior. So it says the followers believe they will receive the rewards immediately after the desired behavior. They believe they're going to get the money as soon as you say they're going to get it. If you say, as soon as you finish this or this project or what, they believe you're going to get it because you have a reputation of doing it. So those are those type of people that can respond to that. And the reward is tied to high performance, and the leader does not reward low performance. So you have to look at those types of careers and jobs where the rewards are huge. They are very important. But here are some situations where they don't work. Leader is held in high esteem and has a reputation for providing rewards for good performance, but things have changed and followers refuse to follow leaders' direction. So if you tell someone, and you always have to look at your policies, everyone gets a raise at their 1 year mark. Everyone is going to get a raise. When you say something like that, you're telling me that whether I perform or not, if I'm still there after my 1 year, I am going to still get a raise. People, they was like, oh, that doesn't seem to be too truthful, or that doesn't appear to be something that you want to put out there. You don't want to be that type of leader that puts that message out there. Or a follower has been warned about poor behavior, but the behavior continues. You don't want to continue to use reward and punishment to try to get them to align. And a lot of people do that. That was one of the things that we did when we were working in the prisons. We saw how that was the worst thing to do. You don't, oh, please don't act up today. Don't act up today. If you don't act up today, I'm going to get you guys McDonald's. Do you know they act up all the time so I can give some kind of reward to stop them from acting? So to break that cycle was almost impossible. So you don't want to do it that way. It has to be in alignment with your procedures and your policies when you're giving out rewards or you're giving out punishment. And you don't just punish people because you don't like them. You punish in alignment with what the policies and procedures call for. So we're on to our last set of questions, guys, and we are moving. This is flowing. I would say pretty nice. We're moving. So this is our last set of questions. Remember, almost never if you don't really do this, or almost always if you do. I display high expectations and confidence. I communicate a vision for the group. You can be one of the persons that's standing up and getting the group inspired and getting them going. I attempt to inspire others by pointing out the importance of the group's task and their part in accomplishing it. So you could be the operations person, you could be the person that as soon as they walk in, the team leader, when you walk in the building, you're inspiring them, they're looking at you. So if you do this almost always, then this is the type of behavior that you're displaying. Charismatic behavior. You are a charismatic type leader. And a lot of people have given this a bad name. They've given the term charisma or charismatic a bad name. There's nothing bad about it. It's only bad when you couple it with unethical behaviors. But there are some ethical behaviors aligned with being a charismatic leader that can change the whole dynamics of your job, of your life, where you're going. We have to pay attention to those things. And so charisma, the word charisma, is a Greek word meaning divine gift of grace. It is also a word that's found in the Bible as well. It has some biblical foundation to it. So it means divine gift of grace. And charismatic behaviors include using power to serve others. And I tell people all the time, power does not corrupt, power reveals. And I'll say that again, power doesn't corrupt, power reveals. If someone gives you power, who you become with that power says who you are. Power will reveal who you are. So a charismatic leader will use their power to serve others. They align vision with followers' needs and aspiration. It's not just us to achieve this vision. It's not just us to achieve this goal, but I want to make sure it aligns with your needs and what you aspire to do. So I'm going to take your vision and I'm going to marry it to the big vision, and we're all going to thrive together. That's what a charismatic leader does. Considers and learns from criticism. A charismatic leader doesn't mind hearing criticism because they know it helps them to learn and grow. They use open, two-way communication. They coach and develop followers and share recognitions with followers, and they develop followers' ability to lead themselves. So that's what charismatic leaders do. This is how you act when you walk in a building every day. You're displaying this behavior. Now, in areas where this tend to work, where followers work in an industry that is extremely competitive and constant threats of mergers and takeovers by other companies. If you work for a large corporation, charisma is going to be very important as a leader. Like, you all want to stand out. You want people to pay attention to what you're doing, how you're doing it. You want to make sure that the competition is not louder than your vision. So you want to be able to get up and hoorah and be the big cheerleader in the building to get people going. So when you got leaders followers who respond to that, then you understand that you're putting together a lot of encouragement to people that, hey, we're not going to get sucked in by this. Even if it is a merger, we're going to still be able to exist, some components of us. There's a long history of charismatic leaders in the organization. It's just, you think about a church, you have bishops, you have that. And like, how were those bishops before? If they were men of integrity and men of this or men of that, then you understand that this is a flow. And people who come up under that leadership, they expect that. So they will respond to charismatic leaders who can get up and help them ride the vision and support the vision. And then followers who service the community. You want to be able to encourage them because they're seeing a lot of things that's making them sad. They're seeing a lot of things that they might say, hey, that's probably me, one paycheck. I'm one paycheck away from that. So you want to be able to encourage and inspire them. So if you got volunteers, people who working with addicts, because addicts can sometimes pass away, nurses or whatever, or people working with low income clients, like, you want to make sure that you're encouraging them. You're being that, like I said, that cheerleader, that hoorah person that just gets everyone riled up and ready to go. Because again, they're looking to you and they're saying, you come in here every day with this attitude and this behavior, like, I need to try to get some of that. That's how they're thinking. So these are the types of followers that can respond to a charismatic type leader. And these are followers that just will not respond to it. Followers work in an organization that emphasize peer reviews of their performance, which means that they're constantly being rated by each other and so forth. It's just like, well, what if this person don't think I'm, exciting enough? Or what if this person don't think that I'm a team player? Like, peer reviews are really taking over everything. So you tend to like, oh man, I don't need you cheerleading me now. I need you to deal with this person who doesn't like me or this person who doesn't engage me. Or followers are highly experienced, educated, older employees who hold high-level positions in the organization and work at tasks that they find interesting and enjoyable. They don't really need a charismatic leader. They're doing the work and they enjoy it. They love it. So you don't need to hoorah them. You come running in my office and, I'm an older, high-level position. You're running in my office, jumping and doing, kicks and all that. Like, can you go sit down, please? Like, I'm good. I don't really need it. So you don't really have to use a lot of your charisma to get them going. They're going to get going anyway. They like what they're doing. Pay attention to the people who like what they're doing. Because again, you want to shift your behavior and may even be a little bit more participative where you get them involved or find out what they have need outside of the job, that you want to help them in as well. Okay. So this is our summary here, and we're great on time. It says a leader's behavior has the power to affect the psychological reactions, outcomes, and performance of followers. But here's the key. Leaders must consider their own behavior, the followers' characteristics, and the situational factors in order to be effective in influencing followers to achieve goals. Again, three areas you have to focus on: your behavior, all the characteristics of your followers. Are they new employees? Have they been there for a while? Are they, are they invested into the company? Like, you got to consider their characteristics. And you also have to consider the situation that you're in, the setting that you're in. And that can help you to be more of an effective influencer when it comes to exemplifying the proper behavior in order to help your team to achieve their goals. So that is it for the presentation. Now, what's next, guys? So I wanted to share this workshop with you all as far as what's next. I told you that this is just a summary of a 3-4 hour workshop. And so what I've done is develop a leadership masterclass, and I do these every now and then. I do them maybe once a month with different groups. I limit it to 10 persons per group, and I do a leadership masterclass. The one that I am getting ready to roll out on May 18th is introducing the new habits that are transforming leaders. And we're going to talk about imposter syndrome, emotional intelligence, how to strengthen your leadership muscles, how to build resilience in leading. And this will be done with 4 1-hour group sessions. That's one session every, I think it's on a Tuesday, one session every Tuesday for 1 hour. And then 2 1-hour individual coaching sessions, just sitting with me, and we're coaching on either something I've come up with as I connect with you during our coaching sessions, or something you may need my help with. And so right now, registration is $297, but for those who are attending tonight, there's a $150 discount on that. And tonight's for session, for those, if you want to register, I put the link in the chat box. If you want to be a part of this, it'll be $147. If you want to be a part of this masterclass. And again, like I do one a month, I'm very limited in the number of people that I have, because when you're in a group session, everyone, we're building a community, and it's so important to make sure we have the right persons in that community, because we're growing from each other. So I want to make that available to you all. Like I said, the link is in the chat. And also our next session, our next webinar is scheduled for Thursday, May 13th, and that's at 7:00 p.m. And the topic that we'll talk about is the types of power used by leaders. So that one is going to probably go a little fast, because we're only going to talk about 3 or 4 types of powers that leaders use. But then we'll also have some time left for us to communicate as a group, to talk about some of the things that came up during that discussion. So I want to invite each of you to like us, follow us, tweet us, join us. These are all our handles, our social media handles here. We have a YouTube page. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, which I barely use. We have a Facebook group called the Leadership Haven Enrichment Academy for Leaders, Hill. So I invite you all to connect us, as well as a business Facebook page as well. So I invite you all to connect with us there as well. And that concludes our presentation. I'm going to stop sharing and see if, let's see. All right, thank you for very informative. All right, great. All right. So do we have any questions? Anyone has any questions or any comments? Okay, thank you. Great work. Thank you. Thank you. Right. So we're always I want to say we're begging, but we always ask, that you all, if you found this to be helpful, to do a testimonial, and that helps us to really grow our reach. It could just be a quick email, or you could just send some information or a text to me with your testimony about what you thought about the presentation. And I want to thank you guys for joining us joining me on tonight. I hope this was helpful. I appreciate your time. And if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and close out the room, guys. And we did it in record time, 7:59, guys. I told you, I respect time. So again, that was a lot of information. Great presentation. Thank you so much, Alvin. Thank you all, Latricia. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Bishop. All right, guys, you all have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.